So I am so excited, as you guys can tell, to kick off today's event, How to Level Up Your Career in 2023, Recruiter Tips, Mentorship, and Networking, sponsored by UnitedHealth Group. Now, for those who don't know, Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Millions of women visit Fairygodboss for career connections, jobs, community advice, hard to find intel about how companies treat women, and virtual events just like this. So, guys, we are so thrilled to be joined by Tonya Barber, Senior Director of Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at United Health Group. So, Tanya, we'd love to hear what's going on in your life personally, professionally, and what you do in your role today at United Health Group. So, would you please take a few moments to just give us the grand intro? I leave it to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Lasheen. First of all, I want to welcome everyone who's in attendance today. I am so excited that you've taken this time to spend with us. Hopefully, it's enlightening and exciting. I'm sure Lasheen will give us lots of energy through all of this. I am Tonya Barber. As you said, I am calling in today from cold, very cold and snowy Minneapolis, Minnesota, but just literally got back from Hawaii, as he said. So we won't talk about that, but I am in cold Minnesota. Again, my goal today is to share with you, hopefully you can take away a few nuggets on mentorship and really networking and then leveling up your career as we move into the 2023. I am going to share a little bit about my career history. I have over 20 years in human resources work. I spent most of that time within the technology realm or in healthcare, about 15 of those years actually within the healthcare space. As you said, I'm currently in a senior director role within our Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office here at United Health Group, which is a Fortune 5 organization. We have over 300,000. I think we're actually closer to 400,000 employees globally. So talking about careers, there's plenty of opportunity here for that. In our team, I should say, our team is really working on increasing the diversity in our workforce, understanding the lived experience of our current employees, and providing more education for our employees on diversity. More specifically, in the role that I sit in, I work really closely with our talent acquisition team on the attraction, retention, and the development of our diverse programs within United Health Group and on our external partners.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tanya. And I'm excited about our discussion today. I really am. And for those just tuning in, I would like to remind everyone that we will be answering questions that come directly from you all. So please submit your questions on the screen on the right, and we'll do our best to respond to as many as we can. So jumping on into it, as the title of today's webinar suggests, we're here to talk about how you can level up your career in 2023. Tonya, I'd love to learn about the steps you've taken to level up and advance your career.
Yeah, I would say the first thing that helped me when I was in an individual contributor role before I moved into leadership was taking the lateral assignment. I think sometimes we have those missed opportunities when we don't take those lateral assignments. So our organization at the time was growing. There was opportunities in another department. I raised my hand to learn that new skill. And after that, I was actually tapped on for projects and additional assignments because it showed I was willing to take on the extra. I will say, if you're going to stay in your current assignment and raise your hand to do extra projects, make sure you work with your manager and be an advocate for yourself so you're not taking on additional work that you can't do or you're overworked. That's key, is to have that balance. But it is important to think about those lateral moves to really expand your knowledge and areas of expertise. Can really help when you move into a leadership role, or even when you're in those first level leadership roles, to get a better understanding of the business is really helpful. So again, I think my number one thing is to raise your hand. Is important to be an advocate, for yourself, and have that open dialogue with your leader. And then second is to be open to change. The only constant we know is change. So it's really important to be open, flexible, and agile when looking at advancing your career, because sometimes going out of that and taking that stretch assignment really will give you that opportunity to the next level. And then be curious. This is something that has stuck with me. One of my senior leaders said that many years ago to me. And every time I hear that, it puts a smile on my face, because if you just have that, sometimes I have like a little post-it on my computer that says be curious, especially when you're in meetings, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And if it's a big group and you don't feel comfortable, it's okay to follow up, after the meeting. Sometimes those people love that. If you reach out and say, hey, can we get a one-on-one? They love to talk about their job. I was actually just in a meeting a couple weeks back, and one of our leaders was talking about their training they're doing for a new Optum technology that's going to be helping our consumers with their healthcare. And I was like, oh, this sounds really cool. So I reached out to him, and he was like so excited to take 30 minutes to tell me all about his work. And so that helps me in my career to understand what's happening in our business at the time. And he's actually training people to use a new technology that we've created that helps people with mental health. And so really something I wouldn't even know about that my day-to-day job wouldn't touch. And so I think those are really key items to keep in mind. So that's what I have for that.
I love that. I love the insight. I love the be curious. And I really, really, what resonated with me was really the idea of, advocating for yourself. I always tell folks as well, you have to be the one to be your own cheerleader. I mean, you have to bet on yourself. And that has just helped me tremendously in my career. So I'm so happy that you also agree with that kind of, method with advancing your career.
Yeah.
Moving along. Now, we often hear about, the role a mentor can play in supporting and advocating for career advancement. Now, what are your thoughts on the role of a mentor can have on career enrichment? And how has having a mentor or sponsor, or being a mentor or sponsor, enriched your own work experience?
Yeah, I think good question. This is very important right now. As we move to a more remote hybrid world, workers are feeling less connected, right? We're more isolated. We may feel alone. We're less likely to have strong connections with our coworkers. And so you may not know what's happening within your organization because you don't have a lot of those coworkers that you're sitting next to in a cube, or having those conversations at the water coolers. So a mentor is a really great way to have that connection right now. I have two mentors. I will say I started later in life with mentorship. I didn't realize how important it was, but I do have an internal mentor, which is in my current company, that I go to. I help with guidance. If I'm working on a difficult presentation or conversation, or even prep for an interview, they're there in your corner to help you. I recommend, if you don't have a mentor, to set expectations ahead of time before you reach out to someone. So when you meet with them, you guys can sit down together, or the two of you can sit down together to really look at what you want for development, and then set goals and success factors together. A couple different things. There's formal mentorship. So a lot of organizations, again, I work in a large organization, so we do have a formal mentorship program. If you don't have that with your organization, you can reach out to people directly. I'd recommend maybe setting up, a 15-minute just introduction first, not go right in and say, hey, will you be my mentor? But start off with that, just a really casual conversation, finding out what their interests are. Would they be interested in being a mentor before scheduling that first call? But there's no wrong reason to reach out as a mentee to ask for a mentor. That's key. It goes back to our first answer here, where he said you have to be an advocate for yourself. If you don't have access to those programs, sometimes you need to do that on your own. And then I have an external mentor. So my external mentor is in a completely different industry, and has been really helpful. So our work is very interesting that it overlaps on like strategy. All of that is very similar, even though I'm in healthcare. She is in a retail environment. And so we really complement each other in what we do. So I would actually say it's more of a dual mentee mentor. Like, we give each other advice, and I really like that, and is able to really think out of the box. So I lean on her for questions when I'm working on something new, to see what her idea is from like a consumer or from an external view. And so that's really helpful. So right now I have those two mentors I work with. Um, the sponsorship is a little bit different. So mentors and sponsorships are very different. So people who do not know the difference, a sponsorship is really someone who talks about you when you're not in the room. And it could be the same person. It could be your mentor who is an advocate for you when you're not there. It could be a previous manager. It could be someone you're working on a project with. It could be someone who can talk to your work. And so a sponsor is more that person that sometimes you don't even know you have a sponsor. I had sponsors. I didn't know where my sponsors for several years. And then I'm like, well, I didn't realize you were really putting me, in these places I needed to be. So, but a mentorship, I think, is a more formal relationship. You have set times you meet. I think that's very important. You set those times. It could be monthly, it could be quarterly, just whether it works with you and your mentor, depending on their question. And I believe we have a networking question coming up, which can lead to how do I find a mentor if I don't have one? So
exactly. So you know what? That's actually a perfect segue because we do have a networking question coming up. And I'm sure that a lot of our folks watching along right now are probably wondering, about, how can you network and get yourself, a mentor, a sponsor, things of that nature. Speaking of our folks watching, guys, the chat box is open still. So if you guys do have any questions, I will be taking questions in just a couple minutes. So feel free to drop some questions. You can do it anonymously. You can use your name. It's all good. So be curious. Hey, I just used to be curious. All right. So I would love to solicit your advice on networking, actually. And I know that networking is critical, especially in a competitive job market. So, what networking strategies do you believe are the most helpful to those who are looking to advance their careers?
I think this can be a difficult skill for some. Even myself, sometimes reaching out to someone you don't know. But I will say one thing to keep in mind, that to build true, authentic connections, I feel, and this is just my personal feeling, but I feel quality is better than quantity. And so you want to build connections that you can tap on and they'll tap on you, than just have, thousands and thousands of people that you don't know. And so part of this is, I'm not a plug for LinkedIn, but that's mostly what we'd probably use for a networking. So if you're interested in something that maybe you don't have any experience in, reach out. And when you reach out, just don't ask for connection, ask why you want to connect. They may just accept your connection still, but sometimes I know I receive a lot of requests for connections and networking. And so I will look through those people that have put something in and says, hey, I'm interested to connect to you about this, and have made some really authentic connections of people to talk to, and then built that into a mentorship program. So my external mentor is that we connected. We both live in Minnesota, and wanted to hear from another, Fortune, 100 person. So followed up and just said, hey, would you be interested in connecting? And now we have been really in a mentorship program. Gosh, I want to say it's almost 10 years now. So long time. So those are really important. One thing that's exciting as we're coming out of this COVID time, we can get back to in-person mentoring. So or networking, I should say, networking, where, go to your local events. So again, I work in diversity. So if there's a women's group, we have several here in Minnesota that you can join and find out some commonalities with people there. If you live in a city that has chapters for any diverse talent, those are always key areas to tap into. And they still have virtual events as well. It's just harder to connect. Or even here in the chat, if you see something someone's writing in the chat or ask a question, reach out to them directly and say, hey, are you willing to connect after this program? So I think just those, you have a mutual connection and that you're, interested in Fairygodboss, conversations. So use all those to your advantage.
I love that. And I love the idea of, like, even just in this conversation that's being had right now, we have the chat box open and folks can absolutely network with each other. Hey, you're here obviously to learn about leveling up. I'm here to learn about leveling up. Let's level up together. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So great plug there. Great plug there. So For those who are specifically interested in joining the UnitedHealth Group team, what are the top 3 qualities your team looks for when you're interviewing a candidate for a role at your company?
So I don't know if I'll give you 3. I'm just going to give you my true opinion.
Sure.
So I'm a boomerang here at UnitedHealth Group. I'll tell you that. I have been in on this team, on the diversity team, for 2 years. I left the organization for a little over 3 years, but was previously here for 10 years and came back. So if that's a testament to the organization, I left and was like, whoa, wait a minute, I need to go back there, right? And so we are looking for people who want to do their life's best work. I would say that's the key thing here. And, our goal as an organization is to improve the healthcare system and any role you're in. And I think that's sometimes misleading when people think of UnitedHealth Group. They think of insurance, or they think you have to be in a clinical, role. Those are great, and we hire lots of people in those roles. But we're also looking for you to really affect the healthcare system in any role you're in. It could be from a financial perspective. It could be from a marketing perspective. I was actually just talking to someone who works in our finance department, who is actually working on the cost of prescription drugs from a finance perspective. How can we make this affordable, and how can we make sure these are in plans? And so people will think, oh my gosh, they work in finance, and how important that is, right, to our healthcare system. So we're looking for people like in any role, from, like I said, from finance to marketing, clinical, nurses, doctors, of course, customer service. Those are key roles here. So, but any of those, again, you can come here and do your life's best work. That's why I came back here, because we are changing the healthcare system. Mm-hmm. And then back to earlier in the conversation, I was talking about, open to change. So one thing that's key is that people who are going to be agile, because the healthcare system is always changing. So I think those are a couple. That's probably 2. And then really just someone who wants to bring their authentic self to work. I think those are key items. So you don't have to have a healthcare background. Those are teachable things. So
love it. Absolutely love it. So what I'm going to do is jump in with some questions here. So one I have for you, I am actually curious of this one myself too. Is there something that you do in your spare time that aids you to thrive in your professional life?
I think disconnecting. So I do work a lot of hours, but I think having a true disconnection from work. And so I am not as active as Lasheen with doing Tough Mudder stuff. I will tell you that. That's probably a good thing to do. But I do like to do physical activity. I think it's so key. If it's even from stepping away from your desk to do a few minutes of meditation and breathing, to out walking your dog. So today it's snowing. My dog can't wait for me to get off of this call to take him for a walk. Just that, I think that mental disconnection from your work is really key to help with that.
Absolutely. That disconnection is so important. And I think what happens is, and from a lot of the folks that I've spoken to as well, there's like a little bit of a guilt factor sometimes, especially because a lot of people are working from home, and they feel like, oh, if I go do something else instead of work, I'm going to feel like I'm slacking off. But I think that the more and more time that we spend in this like hybrid world, people need to let go of that guilt and just realize that you're a person first, employee second, and you really do have to take care of yourself. You really do. So that's a great one. I have one, since you're pretty good with LinkedIn. I have one from Laura. She was wondering, like, first refreshers on getting up and running with LinkedIn. She says that I've been on it, but to be honest, I don't utilize it the way I should. And now that I'm job searching after being immersed in my job for decades, I need help. What can we do for Laura?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I am not a LinkedIn expert, but I do believe if you go on there, they have training opportunities for you to use to show how to build your brand out there. So that's one thing. That's what's a really great tool, is that it will help you build, and it will actually tell you what you're missing. And I believe, I don't know if they still have this, but they used to have a live person you could connect with to help you to make sure that your profile and that your brand is out there and looks good. And you can set up all types of little keywords. I think that's really key. So if you are job searching, go out there and find out some of the keywords you consistently see and make sure that you have those in your profile. And then you can also search on those in LinkedIn as well to see who else has those and make those connections. I will say someone I know just recently did that, looked for people who worked in the organization where they wanted to work, reached out to them, and they actually submitted their resume and said, hey, this person wants to work here, and they actually got hired. So having that connection within the company, even if you don't really know them, is really key to say, hey, I see we're similar. I see you do this job. I'm interested in doing that work. Here's my skills. And they may connect you. Again, like with UHG, we're very complex here. So sometimes it's hard to find that right person, but this was a different organization, but they connected them and they were able to get an interview and get hired. So so very important to go out there. But I do believe that LinkedIn has several tools out there for you to use to build that up. But I think the key thing is to really get your base information out there, make sure your resume is up to date. If you're looking for opportunities, there's a thing in there that says I'm open to opportunities, and that will trigger recruiters can reach out to you directly. And when they're doing their searches, they'll show up in their searches.
That's a great point. Yeah, I remember that from way back in the day. Yep, that's a great tool. And also, we had an audience member that just mentioned Portia Obeng is an amazing LinkedIn coach. She helped her immensely. So please, she sent the link. So yeah, Laura, if you're still watching, please take advantage of that link just sent. This is amazing. We're networking while talking about networking. This is huge. Good stuff. I'm so excited about this. I do want to do another question here. This one's a little, I just would love to know, and this is again kind of coming from me more than anything. It's like, what's been like one of your biggest joys and or challenges, maybe even as a leader, Tonya?
Yeah, I can probably tab both of those. I would say challenges. I will say that going through COVID. And again, I'm in Minnesota, so being next to George Floyd's murder are probably the toughest things I've ever done in my life. I have over a 20 plus year corporate life, and those I've never done anything so tragic as that. And so I had stepped away from UnitedHealth Group to work for a local care delivery. So I was actually in a hospital setting when COVID hit and when George Floyd was murdered. And he was murdered 8 blocks from my corporate office in my hospital. So I feel at this time I could probably take on about anything. And so being there and showing up as a human, and Lasheen, you had said that earlier, that we are humans first. Mm-hmm. And that brought so much more humanity and balance into my life at what's important. That was really tough. And being responsible for thousands of employees that still had to show up for work every day because we had to take care of people in the emergency room or who had cancer and needed treatment when everything else was going on in the world was really tough. And how do you balance that, right? So there's a lot of people that got to, pack up their computers and move home and work remotely. But there was a lot of us who didn't get to do that. Yeah. And so I would say that was the toughest thing I've ever had to deal with in trying to balance that with work and not having the answers. And not that you have the answers for everything, but it was okay not to be okay. And I feel like even in my work now, the takeaway from that, it's okay not to be okay. We talk a lot more about mental health. Mm-hmm. We talked just a few minutes ago about stepping away, and now we're not machines. We are human, and taking that break are really key. So I think that's the toughest thing. The joy, the work I do now, the impact that we make in a diversity role is influencing and really building up our diverse talent. And I know here today we're speaking with women, and how we can empower each other is really, really key. And so the work I do, like I love coming to work.
Mhm.
So I'm happy to work. Sometimes my boss tell me to stop work because I'm so happy to work. I get really excited. I think some of my team members are probably on this call and they're probably like, "Oh my gosh, she like won't stop talking sometimes because I'm so excited about what we do, and my mind just continues to go." So back again, I can tell that do your life's best work, and so that's why I came to this work because I love doing this work, and that's important.
I love that. What a wow! I needed a second for that one. That was a very passionate answer. Very real, very direct, and that just hit so many different like emotions in me. So I really appreciate that answer. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
that could be we could do a whole session
Right?
just on that experience,
Mhm.
and being there on the front lines is like nothing I've ever experienced in my life.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
So switching gears just a teeny tiny bit, you have mentioned earlier that the leadership team at United Health Group is committed to driving growth by developing strategies to attract, retain, and support diverse programs and talents. So, can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about the specific strategies used at United Health Group to support this goal?
Yeah. So again, our team, which is amazing, I can't talk much about our global diversity, equity, and inclusion team. We really partner with our business. So again, on the talent acquisition side, with attract and retain talent, we have strategies around really building this culture where diverse talent wants to work. So that is one of our key goals here, is to really to build that where you can come in here and you feel that you can be yourself and you can bring your true self to work. That is our goal. Now again, we have 400,000 employees. I can't talk to everybody, but our small but mighty team is working on that, and that's our strategy, is to really do that. And part of that is that we do employee listening and experiences, right? We want to know how, once they get here, how do we retain you? So our team does listening experiences. We did a huge offsite where we brought people together and did that all immersive experience. And so we're really truly, like, one thing I say about United Health Group, they're really truly invested and making sure everybody feels that this is a place that they can come and work and grow their career. And our DEI strategy is embedded within the business strategy. So that's key. So the overarching, like, financial and growth and all those business components, DEI is part of that. And so that's one thing with the organization, when you have that as a goal, it's really key and help us grow. And then again, we're still working on developing additional programs to support that. But we've continued to grow. Our team continues to grow. The organization continues to grow. At any given time, we have, gosh, I don't know how many days, but I would say between 6,000 and 10,000 jobs open globally.
Oh, okay. Great, great. Kind of sticking on that topic a tiny bit here. It's great to see the investment United Health Group makes to attract, retain, and support these diverse programs for talent. For our Fairygodboss members who are interested in learning more about why women love working at UHG, we will drop the link to their FGB employer profile in the chat. Should be coming soon. And I'm sure we have many in the audience who will be interested in applying to United Health Group. Now, what recruiter tips would you give to offer those here in attendance? And we just dropped that link, everybody.
Yeah, I would say a couple different things. Of course, definitely go to the link for our careers page and browse there. You can search a couple different ways. You can search by keyword. You can search by functional area if you're interested, again, like in customer service, project management, technology. You can search on key things like that and kind of scroll through. I think that's a little bit better way because it gives you a broader view of some of our jobs. And then clicking on those jobs to kind of see what those requirements are, because depending on the role, the description may be a little bit different than the title. So I think that's with every company, you kind of have to dig in And so if you're looking for a role, you have to spend a little bit of time of looking at the jobs themselves, the job description, what the qualifications are, what they're looking for, to kind of build on where you should to navigate for your roles. And so I would do that and definitely apply for any of the roles that meet your, what you're looking for, as well as we have a talent community. So within our career page, you'll see join our talent community. That is really, really key. You can select on an area of interest. So if you're interested in clinical roles within the organization, you can click on that into your email information, and it will actually send you information when we have updates. Those are really key areas to get connected. I would also, again, back to our LinkedIn, our recruiters are very active on LinkedIn. You can search on UnitedHealth Group, clinical recruiter. So if you're looking for a clinical job, and connect with them and just say, here's my background. Can you help me get to the right area? Because we are a big organization to navigate. So I think those are 3 areas again. So to recap that, just so people know, definitely go to our career page and search jobs. I would search a couple different ways. Join our talent community that's out there, and then use LinkedIn to maybe network with some of our recruiters that are out there as well. And also, on Fairygodboss, don't even use that. We can partner with them. So I always reach out there. We always have, I think we have a couple still sessions coming up even this month with some of our employees from our recruiting team, going to be speaking about their information. And then they're always a good resource as well. And so that's what I have.
I was hoping Fairygodboss was going to get a little plug in there too.
Yeah, I was like, don't let me forget that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Throwing in another question from the crowd. Now, is there any advice you can give to someone looking to go into their first management position? Is there anything you wish you knew earlier in your career?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say that if you have a good relationship with your current manager, they're a good start to ask to talk to about, what do I need, or what do you look for within a leadership role? If not, sometimes that's not an option. Find someone who is in a level up or 2 levels up, that, again, as a mentor, to help you with those skills. And I think the key thing is, and there's a couple different leadership options. So I've been a people leader and then a leader. So I do have some direct reports now, but my leadership role I have now is more from an influencer. So I lead from our team out to the business. And so I'm influence without authority. So I think that's a call for people who haven't been in a leadership role, that some roles are hybrid of both of those. Some are just people leaders. I've been in that role where I've had a large team, and you're managing in your day-to-day is really making sure that your people are, making their metrics, or, answering calls, or whatever it have you, or, what it is. So that's a different type of leader than someone who is being an influencer leader, where you may have a leadership title, but you're not a people leader. So I would do some research on that, because those are different skills that you may need in those roles. And sometimes you do both. So right now, I would say my main role is a leader that is an influencer within the business. And then I do have a few direct reports. Okay. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I would do some research on that, even within your organization. If you want to be a leader within your current organization, find out what that means to them. Is it managing people, or is it going to be in that next level where you're still a senior level person, but you have a leadership title because you're actually leading your team in that influencing section, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Speaking of which, can you tell us a little bit about your current job? Like, as far as what's your current role, like how long have you been in that role? And then what's your day-to-day is like?
Yes. So I've been in this role for 2 years. I Actually, UHG, I should say, our UnitedHealth Group has extended our diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives over the years. So previously, I did some diversity work, but from a talent acquisition perspective. Now I'm in a really organizational perspective. So my role, a lot of what I do right now is our external facing. So I'm responsible for our diversity, equity, inclusion for external branding for UnitedHealth Group. So I work with a lot of partnerships. So I work with Fairygodboss, right? I work with like National Black MBA, Prospanica, some of the national partnerships that are our nonprofits that help to advance diverse talent, and so we partner with them for development. We partner with them for career advancement. I'd recommend, finding out if any of those partners are, interest to you to join them. And then we partner with their memberships to really help grow our diverse talent within in the career space. So again, what this whole thing is about, leveling up your career, is really what our goal is in our work. And then branding from a UnitedHealth Group perspective externally, that we are an employer of choice for diverse talent, which is a hard task, right? Because sometimes I don't think people know who UnitedHealth Group is. And we'll go places, or we may go to like a career event and people are like, I don't know who that is, but they may have heard of United Healthcare, or sometimes they've heard of Optum, which are actually our two large businesses, our business umbrellas, that UnitedHealth Group has. So really trying to explain how our business is set up and how diversity goes through that. And so that's my key role, is I work with those relationships externally. We do employee experiences where we do listening sessions. We work with the voice of our employees to be understood. We're new on our team as a mentorship and sponsorship program, so I haven't worked a lot with that recently, but those just came over to our team as well, so that's really exciting. We also have a learning and development branch within our team, so they help with learning. It could be for managers how to be inclusive. We've done some unconscious bias training in the past for our talent acquisition team, because it starts there, right? If we can't get past that, right? And then we also have that for our leaders as well, to when they're doing the recruiting, and also as on their team. And we have ERGs. So one thing that's really exciting is that we have our ERGs that are pretty new to UnitedHealth Group. I would say they've been around for 2 years now. So we have still a lot of excitement with those. They continue to grow and advance. I think that's also a key way of people to network. I missed that in our networking question, but if you do have ERGs within your organization, that is a huge opportunity for networking as well. So that really rounds out what our team leads from a DEI perspective here.
Love it. Thank you so much for very, very solid answers there. Let me see. Do we have anything else from the crowd before I ask my? Yeah. So hey, how about this? What's your favorite perk about working at your company?
Whoa. Favorite perk. I would say there's a couple different things. One is that we are so large, so you can have 3-4 careers in the UnitedHealth Group. I used to be a recruiter here, so I said all the time, come to UnitedHealth Group, you can have 2, 3, 4 careers here. So there's a huge opportunity to advance here in your career. I say that's number one. Number two, we have really great benefits. So we have a partnership with Peloton. So any of those Pelotoners out there, we have awesome Peloton opportunities. And so our benefits here are really great as well.
Very nice.
I gave you 2 instead of 1.
No, very nice.
2 for 1, right?
2 for 1. There you go. We got a special going. Now, that leads me to another question of like, ultimately, what has led you to stay at this company?
Yeah, I actually think the biggest thing is what I talked about before, is to being my authentic self, bringing your true self to work. I've been in roles where I haven't been able to do that at other organizations. And part of that is me. I would say being a diverse woman, it's really hard sometimes to show up as yourself. And that adds that additional stress on, right? Of everything you have going on in your personal life and then trying to come to work to imposter syndrome, right? Trying to fit in. And so anything I would give for advice out there is that if you can't be yourself at work, it's probably not the best for you from even a health perspective. And it may be affecting your health and you may not even know it. So I think those are key things to take away, is that I can really be my authentic self here.
That's so major, and people don't really appreciate what that really means, right? I hear what you're saying, and it's something that I personally, spent a lot of time like struggling with, like, how can I be Lasheen, and then there was work Lasheen. Like I broke myself down into many different versions of myself to try to fit into the right scenarios, and it wasn't until the last couple of years that I realized I can just be Lasheen. I can just be me, and if they like it, if they're accepting of that, then that's the kind of place that I want to be at. But if I have to put on airs and conform or be someone I'm not, then maybe it's not the best for my own mental health in the long run. So I'm so glad that you said that out loud, because I think a lot of people struggle with that, and don't even realize that they're struggling.
Yes.
And
yes.
you don't want to wait till it's too late.
Yeah, I would definitely say that sometimes I feel that you may be doing that and not even realizing it until you think about it.
Yep.
So sit back, and as we reflect and we go and we're trying to level up our career here for 2023, really sit down. And I think journaling is really key. So if it's at night and you have a journal next to your bed, write down 2-3 things, or have a notebook at your desk to take notes on, to really reflect on what's important to you. And that's key. And like Lasheen just said, like, being yourself, it gives you like that extra breath.
It really does. And guys, when we're talking about journaling, we're talking about doing it the old school way. You take a pen, you take a notepad, and you write it down. You don't pull out your phone and journal, because it's just going to lead you over to Facebook or somewhere you don't need to.
TikTok.
So we're going to keep
Scrolling
it
through Instagram.
Yep.
No,
on TikTok. No. We mean the old school way, writing it down, pen to paper. So Tonya, I do have a question on, like, what final advice do you have for women who are looking to elevate their careers in your industry or job type?
I think something really key that I found out later in life is that if you want to move into those leadership roles, is really taking an interest in the business. So not that you have to be an expert, but even just reading maybe your annual report, financial reports, finding out what your growth strategy is, and understanding your business growth trajectory, or that is key. And sometimes we don't do that because we're so used to being in our focus on our work and what that is day to day, that taking that look at the business acumen of your corporation or your organization can really help to excel. And just knowing just little key facts, and maybe it's something you put on your calendar once a month to check in and see what's happening in your business. If you're a public company, there's lots of opportunity out there. If you're private, you may not have as much opportunity, but that's been a really big takeaway for me to really advance my career the last couple of years.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I'm sure the audience is really receptive to that as well. Okay, cool. People are talking about the journaling here. Yeah, definitely, Anastasia. It doesn't have to be a novel. You don't have to write everything you did that day, including what you had for lunch. Sometimes jotting down 3 things is fine. Let's see. I use a calendar, old school. Oh yeah, I have an old school calendar too. And write in a green pen what I'm proud of for that day, blue pen for what I've learned, red pen for what mistakes helped me grow or where I want. I love that.
I love that too, Lori. That is excellent idea. I might use that. Thank you.
And Amanda comes in with a question. While you're applying for the job, do you enhance your confidence over the process? How do you enhance your confidence over the process?
That's a good question. I think going back to the journaling, writing down what you are, right? Like what's important to you, what your skills are, and being confident in who you are. And sometimes just writing those down, maybe it's your 3, 5 top skills that you bring to that job.
Mhm.
But Amanda, I think we all like it's very nervous, even today talking to you all. I have to build my confidence. I like, so don't be shy on that. We all sometimes need help with that, but be confident in yourself through the whole process if you can.
Exactly. I always say, but what helped me a lot in interviewing or anything like that, I compare jobs to relationships, like to dating. So it's always been like that with me. So for me, I'm always like, I'm confident in getting a job because I'm always like, well, they need me just as much as I need to get this job. They're
Exactly.
the ones putting out the feelers to get people to recruit. So you kind of look at it like they need you to. It really helps with the confidence, and I apply that to, like, back when I was in the dating world. Not anymore, thank God, but back when I was, I would say, like, this date is going to be nerve-wracking, but I want they wanted to meet me too. I'm
Right.
not going to dinner by myself. They clearly wanted to meet me too. So you kind of got to remember what you bring to the table too.
I
That's
really love that analogy. That's very true. And when you are interviewing, it should be two-way, right? You're
Mhm.
interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. You want to make sure it's a good fit for you as well. So build confidence in that. Just like let's you think you're on a date. So it's a give and take.
Yeah, exactly. Give and take.
Yeah.
If you can do that, it'll really help. Trust me on that one. Oh, we have a question in from Gia. If I would like to transition to a career in DNI, what transferable skills do you look for, and what certifications, if any, do you recommend?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Um, I feel that D&I is a little bit newer
Hmm.
official job. I think a lot of people have kind of been doing this work here and there. I've been doing D&I work for 30 years. So, which is crazy, but it wasn't like an official job title. It was actually under marketing at the time, but I was responsible. I actually started my DEI journey as an intern at IBM planning for Black History Month and putting artwork up in the IBM office. So they're like it's been around for a long time, but I think it's been officially recognized over the last several years. And so you probably have skills that you're using in somewhere that relate to diversity, equity, inclusion. It could be you belong to a group within your community that's about diversity. It could be any type of social responsibility work you're maybe doing outside of work can be translatable. It could be anything you're doing to advance equity within your organization. So it could be any of those things. I think there's a lot of relatable skills. If you don't have any of those skills, if you have employee resource group and ERG, I would definitely get involved with them because there's a lot of times that they're doing DEI activities that you can get involved in, or community services they may be working in. That would help you get some additional exposure. Or if you currently have a DEI team at your office, contact them to ask how you can get involved with some activities they may be working on. That gives you also skills. There are quite a few certifications out there. I don't know the exact ones. If anybody's on the chat here and has some good certifications, they can add those links in there. That would be great as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Tonya, at Fairygodboss, we have this tradition of asking our panelists the following. Now, what we've observed is that in a lot of cases, women don't feel comfortable enough bragging or taking ownership of the amazing things that they achieve. So I would like to challenge you to share with us an accomplishment, whether personal or professional or both, that you're most proud of.
Ooh, That's hard. I'm not prepared for that one again because we don't talk about these things. So I would say for personal right, my biggest accomplishment is my children. So super proud of them, and they're adults now and on their own. So that's probably my biggest personal accomplishment. Like, hey, they made it. They're out of the house, right? that, that's a great accomplishment. For work, I would say one one thing that really sticks out to me that's really exciting that at the time was actually a confidential work for the government was on bioterrorism. So I worked on a bioterrorism project that actually with the CDC
Mm-hmm.
and that launched through the federal government. And so to see that and that magnitude and me as one person being part of that and helping to build that team to launch that was like incredible. And so there's actually still team members that work there on that project. And so takes me back to being part of healthcare, no matter where you are, like being part of something that makes a difference within our communities and people's healthcare and health equity is so amazing. And I'm not hands there. I'm not a health person or a clinician or a doctor or nurse, but being behind the scenes and building something that knows is making a difference within our communities is really huge for me. And so I think that's a huge accomplishment for me as well.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for both the personal and professional answers there. Little bit of a lightning round question for you here. What advice would you give your younger self?
I think for my younger self to look at failures as learning opportunities. I think we hear that a lot more now, but when I was younger, like you'd fail and then it wouldn't help with your confidence, right? I don't want to see some other words, but it would just really make you feel low. And so really taking those times that you didn't get the job or your project didn't go as you thought or your manager gave you some critical feedback, taking those as learning opportunities and growing those and making you better because that has helped me to overcome a lot in the last several years where when I was younger I took those as like a hit, like oh gosh, I just feel like awful. And not that you're not going to feel awful, but
Mhm.
I didn't take that next step of the learning. And I think it was Lori or someone earlier put in the red, green, and blue, right? Like
Yep.
taking that opportunity and writing it down and saying, and I guess looking at it as not a failure, but as an opportunity.
hmm That's major. And then you just kind of gave me flashbacks. I remember personalizing every criticism that I would get, or whenever something wouldn't go my way. I'm one of those people who I wear my emotions completely on my sleeves. So if I'm like mad about something, you know it. And this was back when we're in an office setting, so everybody can see I'm stewing like ah. So I have definitely also learned not to take it so personally, and to everybody has a right to feel how you need to feel, right? So if you're upset, you have every right to feel upset, but it's what you do about it afterwards, I think, that kind of defines your character. So take that anger or disappointment or whatever that feeling is. You're entitled to it. You're a human, but then pivot. And it's all about how can you pivot? What can you take away from it, and then how can you turn it into something positive?
I like that. I like that pivot, right? Because like you said, you still have to live in it, right? And feel
Mhm.
it, but then you need to learn how to pivot and
Yeah.
what steps you can do to do that. And I can tell you I was so upset about something that happened at work with somebody and I couldn't let it go. And for years, it was years. And so
Mhm.
I finally got the courage to talk about
Yep.
that, to talk about it and to talk with this person. And I wrote down my points and they had no idea that they made me feel that way. They absolutely had no idea. They were in absolute shock, right? And I was holding on to this feeling for like years. And all I had to do was like, right, like get out of my feelings, pivot quickly, and probably talk to them like 3 years ago when it happened. you
Yeah.
know, so sometimes we hold on to things that, are not even that important. And I think back, I'm like, why did I even do that? She didn't even
Right.
know that was happening, right? So yeah.
And learning experience. One last question from the audience. We can answer in like maybe 30 seconds would be great. As a recruiter, while you see a candidate with an entrepreneurial background, do you think big corporations like United Health would value this background and experience?
So I'm not a recruiter, but I'm going to put my recruiter hat on because I have been a recruiter
Yep.
and say yes. One thing about United Health Group, we have a huge um, like insights and fusion through our Optum group that does a lot of entrepreneurial work. They're looking for that. We actually have patents that are written here. So within the health group, there are departments that actually look for those skills, who people who have that entrepreneurial vision and view. So from my personal, again, I would say yes, especially here at United Health Group.
Cool stuff. All right. So thank you so much, Tonya, for joining us today, for sharing such fantastic advice, for sharing such personal stories and background information about yourself. And thanks to all who tuned in for this discussion. This has been a tremendous valuable use of our time. And I'm just so happy that you were able to join us and be a part of this, Tonya. Now, as a reminder, folks, we will be sending out the recording of today's event, along with resources to learn more about opportunities at United Health Group. In the meantime, be sure to check out United Health Group's profile right here on Fairygodboss. Check out their jobs too. Also, we'd love your feedback, folks, to help us improve for future events. So please head to the type form tab on the right side of your screen, share your thoughts in a quick little 1-minute survey. And at this point, I will say, Tonya, again, it has been a tremendous hour with you. I have just been goosebumps the whole time. You are fantastic. You are dynamite. Everyone, thanks for listening. And I want everybody to have a great rest of their day, rest of their week, and get ready for this holiday season. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Lashane. Same to you.
Bye.
Bye.